My parents expected me to be independent the minute I turned 18. So they gave me $5,000 they had saved up for my education and they started charging me rent. They wanted $500 a month for rent. I was lucky enough to have a partial scholarship and I found a job in the city my university was in. So I moved there before the school year began. With my parents' money, my scholarship and my wages, I was able to scrape by. I rarely, if ever, spoke with my parents. I was kind of busy. I guess they decided that they didn't want that kind of relationship with my younger siblings because they weren't presented with the same option. They didn't make my sister and brother pay rent and they helped them with loans for their education. I got a job and have been paying my own way since I was 18. Brother still lives at home rent-free. He's 26. I'm 34 now with a decent job and a great girlfriend that I'll marry this summer. I sent my parents and siblings an invitation. They called to ask me why they weren't involved in the wedding planning and stuff. I responded that they hadn't been a part of my life in 16 years and that I was being nice by inviting them. They said they acknowledged that they made mistakes when I was young, but that was in the past and I should get over it. Against my fiancé's advice, I sent them an itemized bill for everything I paid for myself that they freely gave my brother and sister. I said if they wanted to be a part of my life, they had to ante up. They said that they couldn't afford that because they were still in debt from helping my siblings out. I laughed at that and said I hoped to see them at the wedding and hung up. My family's all getting a hold of me to let me know how much I'm hurting my parents. The thing is, I don't want their money and I don't want anything from them other than their attendance at my wedding. If they can't do that, then I'm fine with our yearly phone call. Am I the idiot? They said they can't afford it because they're still in debt from helping my siblings out. I'm sorry, what? Then why did they do it in the first place? Not the idiot OP. Perhaps siblings can pay back now. The crux of the matter is the unfairness of treatment between OP and his siblings. It's not really the money. Presenting the bill was really giving the parents a big old serving of humble pie. Clearly OP doesn't really expect or hope that his parents would make financial amends. Congratulations on your upcoming wedding, OP. I wouldn't have invited them at all. These people that kick out their kids at 18 are unbelievable. I wonder if this situation is common with the firstborn. My stepmother and dad dropped me off for my first day of college and informed me that they had bought a new house and had no space for me. I was 18, but my brother, now in his 30s, never moved out. They did not get an invite to my wedding. And my dad still complains to my grandmother that I don't call or talk to them. It's a typical triangulation by parents who have favored child or children and treat them very differently than you, very much to your face, unapologetically. Then they show entitlement by asking you why on earth they haven't been a part of your wedding planning. And then they shrug it off and tell you to get over it because it's in the past. If they continue this way, they themselves may remain in the past. It hurts me so much to read such stories again and again. I, female 23, still live with my parents. I pay them a little bit for rent and help with chores around the house. My brother, 32, is married with 2 daughters. His wife has a habit of dropping them off with my parents so she can go run errands. My parents tolerate this because they love their grandchildren. Last week, my parents went away on vacation and I had the house to myself. I went out the back door to the garage while my sister-in-law was dropping her kids off at the front door. We didn't see each other. We did see each other when I was getting groceries and she was parking to do the same. The Publix is about 5 minutes from my house, but she tore out of the parking lot like a speed demon. Then the calls started. My parents, my brother, my sister-in-law, everyone was calling me irresponsible for leaving the girls alone so I could go run errands. I asked each of them when I had agreed to watch the girls. Not one of them could say that I had. My brother apologized to me because he thought I had agreed. He's angry at his wife over this. She thinks I'm an idiot for not just watching them while my parents were out of town. To be honest, if she had asked, I would have watched them, but I don't feel bad about not doing something I didn't sign up for. Not the idiot, you said it yourself. You didn't sign up to do this. Nobody asked you to, and therefore it was not your responsibility. It's not even clear from the story that you knew the kids were in the house. Family can be an important extension of childcare, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you do have to consent to it. That's exactly what I was thinking. Sister-in-law drops the kids off at the front door without a notice. OP exits the house through the back door. I read it as OP didn't see them. The parents were out. The sister-in-law didn't even check to see if anyone was in the house. Who was to say that OP wasn't out of the house as well? Sister-in-law has a dangerous habit when she needs to stop ASAP. This, like even if sister-in-law saw OP's car there, she couldn't assume that meant OP was home. What if her friend had come and picked OP up to go out somewhere? Sister-in-law could have abandoned the kids with absolutely nobody there to care for them, and she wouldn't have known till she was done taking her sweet time shopping and got back to hopefully 2 kids still alive and in good condition. Yeah, LOL. What kind of parent just kicks their kids in need of supervision out the car anywhere without checking if said supervisor's actually there? This is 100% on your sister-in-law. She's lucky the kids weren't hurt and that no one called the cops. She sounds like she feels entitled to your time. Glad your brothers got your back. I have a young grammar school-aged son, Jake, and we're currently staying with my brother, his wife, and their daughter, Abby, nearly adult. Abby recently went through something really hard and traumatic. I feel for her with all my heart, and I'm doing all I can to be there for her. During this time, Abby became really close to Jake. It was sweet enough at first, and even though Jake wasn't one to sit in one place for long, he didn't say anything and allowed his cousin to cuddle and spend time with him. He does a lot for her and will wake her up when she takes naps for too long, will go out to the park with her to make sure she doesn't stay at home too long, etc. My sister-in-law was extremely appreciative of this, and Abby seems to be happier when he's around. Of course, Abby's in therapy, so I didn't think she depended on my son to get her through the day. But a couple of weeks ago, Jake's paternal grandparents wanted to take him to Disneyland for a couple of days, and he was so excited. He kept telling everyone how much fun he would have and more. Abby didn't say much whenever he'd mention Disneyland, but my sister-in-law asked me if he was actually going multiple times. I said, yes. Why would I stop my son from going to Disneyland? She asked if his grandparents could take him on a trip another time, but I told her that wouldn't be possible. She was upset but stopped. The other day his grandparents came to pick him up and he was sitting with Abby getting ready to go when she suddenly broke down crying. Jake got scared and started crying as well, so I separated them. They calmed down and Jake left for Disneyland sometime later. My sister-in-law was furious. She approached me and said, "So you really let him go?" I said, "Yes, again, why wouldn't I?" She was all like, "You saw how my daughter reacted to him leaving and you're still confused?" Apparently, Abby really didn't want him to go and she cried because he was leaving. I told her that that was highly unfair for her to say. My sister-in-law said that I was being unfair and that Disneyland was not more important than her daughter's well-being. I never said this, but I told her that my son isn't her emotional support dog, and while I'm very sorry about Abby, it isn't fair to put my young son's life on pause. He's little. It's unfair for her to force my son to give up things for the comfort of his cousin. Sister-in-law called me heartless and said she wants me gone from the house before Jake returns because she isn't putting Abby through this again. My brother intervened and told her that she was acting irrationally, but she told him to shut up. It's been really tense, and while I did attempt to apologize, sister-in-law told me that the only apology she'd accept is one from Jake, but I'm not gonna make him apologize. So, am I the idiot? I really don't think so, but Abby is genuinely upset about Jake leaving. Edit, I was repeating my sister-in-law's word for word, but giving her the benefit of the doubt. I believe she meant that the only apology she'd accept is one in the form of Jake. I'm considering moving back home with my parents. I initially accepted my brother's offer to stay with them because my job is closer and other reasons, but ultimately I think we should leave. Not the idiot. Abby has serious attachment issues and yes, please move out, OP. This is not normal and not okay to put a son in a position like that. Don't apologize. You did absolutely nothing wrong. You would be the idiot if you kept living there and subjecting your young son to being treated like a support animal. This definitely will have damaging effects on your son if you continue living there. You sound considerate and caring from the beginning to the end, but your own child must be a priority over another. On top of that, like you said, Jake is a young child and not an emotional support dog. Everything he's done for Abby is incredible, but also above and beyond, absolutely not within the realm of expectation for a boy his age. In general, I would try to distance him from Abby a little bit because this seems like a very unhealthy attachment that could lead to some kind of trauma in turn for Jake. She wants Jake to apologize because she wants him to accept that Abby's his responsibility. It's manipulative. I'm glad you're planning the next steps to leave. It sounds like your sister-in-law wants your son to be a live-in carer and is happy to parentify your son. Don't let your sister-in-law abuse your son's kindness and stand your ground in not having him apologize for going on holiday. Your brother needs an eye-opener too. I am or was going to be the best man at my brother's wedding next year. My wife was invited to be a bridesmaid and she initially said yes. It turns out that the bride is now expecting my wife to get a whole new wardrobe for the bridal showers, bachelorette party, rehearsal, and reception dinner on top of her bridesmaid's dress. The only color she's allowed to wear to all of these events is the same lavender color as her bridesmaid dress. She was even given a few swatches of that material to take shopping with her. The shoes and makeup have to match for photos. Even pajamas have to match. The bachelorette party is a week getaway plus all of the other events. It's like an additional 10 days of clothes my wife will never wear again. She normally wears black or dark-colored clothes. I bring this up to my brother after he hands me the fabric swatches. I told him this was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard. He said that's why they're giving me almost a year to get all the items together for the bachelorette and weddings. I'm thinking of my wife's reaction because she's already not great friends with the bride. I told my brother that my wife can attend the wedding as a guest, not a bridesmaid. My brother gets mad, saying I'm upsetting his fiancée's aesthetic that she had planned. He asked for a few days of accommodation and I said no. He tells me I'm no longer his best man for this and I'm selfish for destroying his fiancée's dream wedding over a few dresses. Edit, I did discuss this with my wife. I told her afterward and she laughed saying hard pass. Not the idiot. It's so incredibly selfish when brides do crap like this. It's unfair to expect everyone to spend what will ultimately be thousands to try and accommodate this type of request. Your brother's being delusional. Tell him that you'll catch the next one. This is nuts. Good thing you don't take their crap. I'm 100% grateful that my husband would deal with his own family BS on my behalf and not let them use my desire to people please to put me in a situation I won't like. He knows me and knows I would hate being some lady's prop at my own expense and telling his family I'm not taking part. OP is an amazing husband, but this wedding culture is out of hand. 10 days for a bachelorette? 10? So now I also expect to use my vacation days and vacation money for your pre-wedding event as well. They're asking you to devote your entire year to them and it's so selfish. There's no room for personal vacations or getaways for the year this friend is getting married. Yep, this is insanity to me. Do you like the people at your wedding party? What's wrong with them looking like themselves in some non-wedding pictures? Overly curated photos are boring, especially for multiple events. It's all for the socials, Instagram ridiculous. Even if the bride was gonna pay for all these lavender outfits and pajamas, I'd want to avoid this. People are not dolls. I run a TNR program for feral cats nonprofit. I catch all cats and get them the medical attention they need myself out of my own pocket. I love helping them. Many of the cats cannot be rehomed, so I fix and release them, get them their shots and hope for the best. I'm not a large-scale operation. Recently I was called to an area overrun with orange cats. They were everywhere and I mostly ended up handing it over to professionals. I did, however, manage to grab 3 adorable cats. 2 were terrified, skinny and a little beaten up, but overall friendly. The third one was a little gent. He was tubby, well-groomed, fish pattern collar, the works. I planned to find his parents and drop them off with a warning to keep him in due to the large number of traps being set. Then the little bastard sprayed the inside of my car to the freaking max. So apparently he wasn't fixed. I couldn't really tell, long hair, and assumed he was. So I left my covers off, big mistake. I debated taking him home or taking him to get neutered with the rest. He was an indoor-outdoor cat indicated by his collar tag. And with so many strays, I'm certain some were carrying his genetics. Ultimately I took him with me and got him neutered. There was no chip. So I called the number on his tag, informed them where their cat was and gave them time slots to pick them up or have them dropped off. The owners went ballistic. They were cursing me out and came to collect their cat not 20 minutes later, called me a cat nipper and blamed me for their child having nightmares, scared over their cat going missing. I tried to explain that he needed to be fixed if he was gonna be outside, but they didn't want to know. They said I should have called them immediately regardless. I spoke to my rescue friend who said I was in the wrong. Even though we know we're technically in the right, we didn't have the legal ground to do that. And it wasn't my decision to make. I did apologize, but have blocked their numbers. The mom is flaming me on Facebook and many people I know. I have a duty to care for stray cats. Knowing an unneutered male was roaming free and not doing anything about it was a concern for said stray cats. Things are still tense between my rescue buddy and me, and I don't completely disagree. I know I crossed the line, even if it was for the greater good. People are finding out and taking sides. So I'm not sure who to really believe was right here. So am I the idiot? You are the idiot. You did catnip their cat and made a superbly arrogant decision to have him neutered without the owner's permission. You can judge them all you want for letting their cat outside, but the first thing to have done was to call the cat's people and ask, "Hey, I found your cat. Did you know he was outside?" That's the basic due diligence right there. How a vet decided to neuter the cat means you must have taken off the collar and obscured the owner's information, or they wouldn't have done it without their permission. So you just made yourself actionable legally. You don't know if they were planning to breed the cat and he just happened to get out. I spoke to my vet. She's a TNR vet. She neuters and moves on. There was no address on the collar. So my vet said it was fine. I don't know if she tried to call the owners or not though. I personally don't condone the breeding of cats when we have so many dying, literally for homes. Not 3 weeks ago, I dropped off at least 30 kittens and a couple of pregnant mamas at a rescue. May 10th be adopted. The rest will be euthanized. It's horrible. I don't really care if they had plans to breed truthfully. Well, then you shouldn't care if they sue you, I guess, since you feel you're completely in the right and justified, right? I understand that the cat overpopulation problem is horrible. I'm a cat owner myself. My problem is that you stole someone's pet. There is zero justification for that. And if the vet is that careless, they're leaving themselves open to being sued as well. You should have the burden of calling the owner before permanently altering their pet. I'm with OP, not the idiot. They're irresponsible pet owners and are endangering the community by having an unneutered male cat. It's unethical and should be illegal. We don't exist in a vacuum. They can't just do whatever the heck they want when it affects other cats and people. They should have kept him indoors or fix it. OP found the cat, ensured it had medical treatment and returned it to the owners. They should be. I'm a female, turn 18 in a few weeks. I'm counting the days to get out of my parents' house. They, however, have become so reliant on me that I know they dread the day and wish they could legally prevent me from moving out. I'm their oldest kid. They have 4 others, all under 10. My siblings have been put on me for a long time now. Even when I was their age, it was expected I would step up because I'm the oldest. So, it was both parentification and the old school thing of the oldest is expected to help because they were born first. Not all of it was parentification, but some of it sure was. We're talking about helping with homework, making sure they didn't kill each other, walking them to friends' houses, and watching them while mom and dad ran errands. But you also had stuff like feeding them lunch and or dinner when mom and dad weren't home, babysit overnight when they want to go to stuff, and walk them to school once they start going. I was told I needed to know how to change diapers and feed them as babies. That's the sort of stuff that happened a lot. I got some freedom. I could do whatever I needed every afternoon, at least with 3 weeks of work behind me. Over time, it became me being the one home more than them, and guilt trips laid at my feet if I wanted to do something, and my siblings wanted me to be home with them instead, and my parents saying I should treasure those moments while they want me like that. I'm pretty damn tired of it. I don't enjoy my siblings. Part of me wishes they had never been born, so at least I could have looked out for just myself and not had to sacrifice so much. I don't feel like the benefits are there for me, and it's sad because most of my friends adore having siblings. In contrast, I'm left feeling like it's a chore. I started saving some money when I was 14. My parents don't know, but it can help me move out right as I turn 18. The topic of my birthday came up recently, and my parents said, "You'll still come around, right? You'll still help take care of them, right? You still owe us, you know. We're still your family." With that kind of stuff. So, I told them no, I wouldn't. They told me to think of the kids, if not them. So, that's when I said I didn't choose to have their kids, and I wasn't going to help keep making their life easier, and my life more difficult. That I'll be gone, and they'll have to figure it out independently. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. You were the parent during your teen years. It's time for them to become a parent now. They're not your kids and not your responsibility. Your parents sound terrible and have no boundaries. Your parents had kids, and expecting one of their own to raise them was not fair to you. If I were you, I wouldn't speak of this in front of your parents. I'd just sign the lease, pack up my stuff, and go. You don't owe your parents anything for raising you. That's their responsibility as parents, and putting it on you is pure manipulation. I know it's easy to resent your siblings right now. Just please remember it isn't their fault. Your parents saddled you with them. And please, please, make sure your money's safe when you're ready to move out. I hope your parents don't get their hands on any of it. You deserve your freedom. You deserve to live your best life. I agree. It's not OP's fault that her parents decided to have 5 kids and couldn't afford to care for them all. The only thing OP owes them is calling CPS. I feel bad for the second oldest because I bet that when OP is gone, this kid will be the substitute, especially if it's a girl. I live in a country where it's very common for parents to do this. The oldest girl of the family frequently is parentified and becomes the second mom of the kids. I think it's better, though, to go the other way and pretend OP had a change of heart and will help them out. Then the parents may let their guard down a bit, and OP has a better chance of making it out with her money and valuables. OP has a lot of things they need to gather to move out. Her birth certificate, IDs, passport, bank records, treasured personal items, and regular personal items that she needs. If OP makes it clear that she's never coming back, her parents could quickly sabotage those. In fact, they probably are now. OP should definitely leave, but do it quickly and quietly rather than telegraphing your moves. Good luck. For over a decade, my 4 best friends and I have had an annual fishing trip. There's always been a no wives, no girlfriends rule since the beginning, and no one has ever violated it. 2 years ago, my friend Tim told the group he wanted to bring his very young son to pass the tradition on to the next generation. Only Tim and I had kids at that point, but my daughter was 3 and too young for fishing. We all supported Tim's idea and made a big deal over the little guy. He had a great time and came last year as well. My other friend Randy has an infant son now. When the baby was born, Tim gave Randy a children's fishing pole to give to his son on his 5th birthday. So, it seemed clear to me that the tradition had evolved to us plus our kids, which I'm cool with. The other day, I mentioned to my friends that my daughter was excited about this year's fishing trip, and they looked at me like I was crazy. Tim said I shouldn't bring her, and I was baffled. I was super supportive of him bringing his son, and this is no different. My daughter's now Tim's son's age when he first came on the trip. Another friend brought up the no wives, no girlfriends rule, which made me angry. My daughter isn't anyone's wife or girlfriend. I said if they don't want my daughter there, I don't want Tim's son there. Tim was offended and stormed out. Randy said what I said was uncalled for. I said I'm bringing my daughter and that's that. I just want to make sure I'm not being an entitled idiot. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. If I were you, I'd ditch their trip and take your daughter on a fishing trip one-on-one. She'll probably enjoy that a lot more than being looked at by your friends like she's biologically lesser. Clearly, when they said no wives, no girlfriends, they meant no females. Lame that they, as fathers themselves, aren't more understanding and supportive of you wanting to bring your daughter. I used to fish with my pop and it was a great bonding experience. Plus, lots of kids love trying and doing things the adults in their lives do. If he'd not been open to it because I'm female, we would have missed out on one of the major things that we bonded over. I definitely recommend doing it one-on-one too. It's great quality time, particularly if it avoids the misogynistic idiots too. Please consider whether you want to maintain these friendships at all. Now you know that they have problematic gender views. Update, we talked some more. They ended up apologizing. Daughter's definitely coming on the trip. I know many people assume that my friends are misogynistic and horrible, but they're not. They were just worried that with my daughter there, we'd have to stay in a hotel instead of the usual cabin and not be able to do as many activities. I assured them my daughter could sleep without air conditioning as easily as Tim's son, and they were going to be the ones having trouble keeping up with her energy. Everyone apologized for mentioning the no wives, no girlfriends rule and agreed that was a crappy thing. It's all good now. Thank you for your support. Just saw your update. It's sickening to me that you can't see your friend's misogyny because she's a girl. They assume she had to stay in the hotel. What the heck? They made up the excuse of being worried that they'd have to stay at a hotel if they didn't need to stay at a hotel for the other kids. Why suddenly yours? Oh, that's right. She's a girl, which means she's somehow less than your friends or jerks. P.S. Wondering if your wives or girlfriends get to disappear with no responsibilities for a week every year. Oh, how could they? They have all the female children and boys under 5 to care for context. We've been married for 6 months and dated for 2.5 years. My husband, 31, hates when I'm talking to him while scrolling through my phone. I'm a multitask person, so I could focus on doing 2 things at once, like checking my Instagram while listening to him. He pitches a hissy fit whenever he sees me with the phone in hand. Recently, he has given me an ultimatum. He is nerve, lol, saying next time he sees me using my phone while talking to him, the phone would have to go. I thought that was an overboard kind of ultimatum because it's not like I'm ignoring him when he's talking about serious stuff. But he wants me to be 200% listening when he talks about a game or a past trip with his buddies. I was in the kitchen the other day strolling through my phone when he came and sat across from me. He told me to put the phone down. I asked why and whether he had something serious to talk about. But he said, no, nothing serious, and reminded me of what he had told me about the phone while talking rule. So I was like, no. He got up, took it out of my hand and rushed out while I yelled at him, asking where he was taking it. He got outside and threw it in the pool while I watched. I couldn't believe it. I started yelling. What? What? At him repeatedly. Finally, we got into a huge argument and he decided to get in his car and leave for Starbucks. Later, I told him that what he did was out of line and that I expected him to replace my phone ASAP. He responded saying he had already set one reasonable rule and I violated it and disrespected him and his presence in time. We had another argument and I insisted he replaces my phone. Finally, he said that I made things get this far by refusing to listen and choosing to be disrespectful. Thankfully, I have an old phone I'm using for now, but my other phone was a tremendous loss because I paid for it and have to work on it. Everyone's the idiot here. Husbands don't make rules for their wives. Wives don't make rules either. He is not your boss or your dad. So claiming he gets to create rules that you have to obey is not a good look. You aren't perfect either. It is rude to be looking at your phone when someone's talking to you. I'm not sure either of you is ready to be married. It's rude to interrupt someone who's occupied and demand their immediate undivided attention for something of no importance. But I also wondered if he just never shuts up and this was over just trivial crap. This relationship is a no-go either way, to be honest. Not the idiot. You're not a child. He's not your parent that gets to set rules and punish you for misbehavior. That behavior should never be accepted in a marriage. He owes you the money for a new phone, and he owes you a separate apology for treating you like some misbehaving child and teaching you a lesson. Girl, it is just starting. He is going to have a bunch of more rules for you. I think you should just take the loss and replace the husband altogether. I mean, even if done to a child, this behavior is toxic and abusive. Who the heck escalates straight to destroying property like this? My late wife Kate passed away about 12 years ago. They have a family heirloom that was passed down several generations, starting from her great-grandmother, from mothers to their first daughters, on their 18th or thereabouts birthdays. The heirloom itself is not highly valuable in a financial sense, but the history makes it very valuable to the people in the family. I currently possess it after Kate passed away and I always intend to give it to my daughter Claire on her 18th birthday. She is presently a mid-teen. I married my current wife about 8 years ago. My stepdaughter Sarah, whom I have adopted and consider my own daughter, is nearly an adult. Her 18th birthday is in a month. My wife has also adopted Claire and we all consider each other as just one family. My wife asked me to give the heirloom to Sarah on her to continue this tradition. I was hesitant because I always intended to give it to Claire, who is Kate's only daughter, as this is what she would have wanted and is the continuation of the tradition. However, my wife counters that this belongs to our family now and we should give it to our eldest daughter on her 18th birthday. Therefore, this should be Sarah. I told her that while I consider Sarah to be my daughter, she's not Kate's daughter. This belongs to Kate and should go to Kate's daughter. My wife said that Claire is her daughter, not anyone else's, and my wife accused me of playing favorites and told me that if I genuinely consider Sarah to be my daughter, then I'll do the right thing for her, or that I haven't accepted Sarah as a real daughter yet. I consulted my son from Kate, 25 years old, and he told me that if I do this, he will walk out the birthday party and that he bets he won't be the only one. He said if I do this, I should be ready for severe consequences. He left very frustratedly. His argument in the end was that this isn't yours to give away. It was Mom's and now belongs to Claire. My wife thinks my son is overreacting and it's only because due to his age and moving out, he's never bonded with Sarah like Claire and I have, so he doesn't consider Sarah his real sister. Otherwise, he'd be happy for her. My wife thinks Claire will be happy about this since she considers Sarah to be her big sister and it'll bring the girls even closer together because Sarah will happily share it with Claire and they'll both have it. So, will I be the idiot if I did what my wife wants me to do and give the heirloom to Sarah? You are the idiot if you give away the heirloom intended for Kate's daughter. Your wife may have adopted Claire, but Kate will always be your mom. That is such a cruel thing to say, and shame on you for not correcting her. Ultimately, because this came from her mom, it will mean a lot more to Claire than to Sarah. Sarah's your daughter too, but I'm sorry, she will not understand or appreciate the significance of something belonging to a woman she never met. If you give it to Sarah, be prepared to lose Claire and your son. You raise a good point. Claire lost her biological mother, and she would truly treasure this heirloom as something of her mom's. To Sarah, it would have no sentimental value of that sort. It would just be another piece of jewelry. Your wife needs to understand that it's not yours to give. I'm sorry to say this, but all our arguments against this seem like an attempt to manipulate you into giving it to Sarah emotionally. And while it may make Sarah feel happy, you would be robbing Claire of something that was her mother's. Maybe give it to your son to hold on to until Claire is 18. It's such a ridiculous request. The new wife is still threatened by the fact that OP loved a different woman before her. By destroying this tradition, she's doing her best to destroy OP and Claire's happy memories of his late wife and her mom. It's also like she's trying to cement her place as the #1 woman in OP's life, which is a ridiculous contest. And she's ironically pressuring him to favorite Sarah as proof that he's not favoring Claire. I have to wonder if this is the first time she's pulled antics like this. I'm male 28. I'm in a 2-year relationship with my girlfriend, 27, and we haven't had any big problems yet. We don't live together, but she spends much time at my place because she has roommates. I have a 1973 Dodge Dart Swinger. It's broken down, and I bought it cheap a few years ago. The car is not that good, but I honestly have a deep love for it, and I spend a lot of money on it whenever I have some money left to spend. Recently, my girlfriend bought a Renault Kwid. The car's nice. It's new, too, so it doesn't even have a scratch. The thing is, my girlfriend demanded that I leave my car outside when she sleeps over so she could leave her car in my garage. She said that since her car is new, it's more important to keep it safe. I disagreed. My car might be cheaper, but it's still my car, and I think I deserve to keep it safe because it's my only vehicle. She stated that I was selfish because she had to work a lot to make enough to buy her car, so I tried to calm her down and told her that I could pick her up at her house when she wanted to stay over. She'll be able to leave the car in her home's garage, to which she said no, that she had bought the car to be seen in a new car and not a broken down one. Then she called me stupid and told me I was ruining our relationship for a car, and I answered that she was doing the same. She left and hasn't been answering my calls. Was I really wrong about this, or should I stand my ground? Not the idiot. She's the one ruining your relationship over a car. OP, her car costs more and is newer, but your car has a lot of emotional value and love from you. So, in a way, they're both expensive. And since it is your garage, you get to decide which car you want. Simple as that. She needs to learn to accept a no, be more understanding, less self-centered, and grow up. For starters, you two don't even live together. Her entitlement, expecting you to let her have your garage because she has a nicer, newer car, is baffling. Secondly, when you offer a solution to her ridiculous request, she responds by calling you selfish and insulting your compromise. Again, she's exhibiting her entitled behavior because she can't be seen in a broken-down car now that she has her new car. If you look very closely, you will see her true colors. So, think long and hard about continuing this relationship. She had bought the car to be seen in a new car and not a broken-down one. Sir, here's the red flag you ordered. You offered her an excellent solution, but she's more interested in impressing people. Gross. Your girlfriend sounds materialistic and not like someone who knows how hard it is to make money to buy stuff. Update. My girlfriend and I spoke. She's furious. She told me that she thought I'd be more understanding with this and asked me how I expect to move forward if I can't even do something so small for her. I told her I wasn't ready for the next step, and she got angrier and kicked me out of her house. I don't know if we can solve this for now. I'm really doubtful about what to do, but still. Part 1. Well, here's my tragic story. I am 57 and Wei Ward wife is 54. We have been married for a few months shy of 30 years, whirlwind romance, and married about 1.5 years after we met. We have 2 adult male children, ages 27 and 24, who are on their own and doing quite well for themselves. I'd say we've had a pretty steady, uneventful marriage. We have always gotten along great, rarely argue about anything important. We share a few solidly connected hobbies, such as playing golf together, but have also always willingly given time to the other for their pursuits. Importantly, our values, religion, views of the world and thoughts on child rearing lined up really well, and the result was 2 amazing children that never let us down. She was an amazing mother to them and quite selfless at the time, which makes the selfishness of the betrayal all the more difficult to accept. As with many other couples at this point in a marriage, our intimacy had dropped a fair amount in last several years. I am pretty quiet and never pushed her when I got the sense she wasn't feeling it. All that said, our day-to-day life was pretty great, with more than a few people saying over the last few weeks how could this possibly happen to them. On June 17, she said we need to talk. It was pretty short. I've been unhappy for a while, and I want a divorce. She next moved into ILYB and ILWY, and I then asked the relevant question if there was someone else. She said yes. It has been going on for over 18 months. Some of it she clearly covered by saying she was going out with friends, which really wasn't that often, but I travel extensively for work and am gone 2 to 3 nights a week, every week. That's a huge window of opportunity. My early attempts the first few days didn't go well, and she stated, I've already moved on. She moved her stuff out within the week and is living with him. Maybe there were warning signs and I chose to ignore them a bit over the last 6 months or so. I'd call from the road and she always seemed a bit distracted. I'd wrap up conversations with ILYB and a few times got back as little as an okay. Now, the woman is a hopeless non-romantic and doesn't even like Valentine's Day, so I brushed that off. She clearly had an amazing ability to compartmentalize her 2 lives. She even was clever enough not to use our toll pass going back and forth across the river to another state where he lives to avoid a trail. Needless to say, I'm totally shattered. I don't sleep, I've dropped 11 pounds, my BP and heart rate are way up, and I'm now on medications. I did mention this to her the other day when I had to drop something off at her work and there was only mild sympathy. I've known it for a long time, but the woman lacks empathy. I see it in the dynamic with her family, through this and other general interactions with others where that would be appropriate. Speaking of her family, they've been very good to me over the years. Her parents love me like a son and squarely have my back. They have not spoken to her and have no plans to yet. They are headed for therapy themselves this week and I worry about their health as they are both 80. Other than my kids, I have no local family. Speaking of my kids, they have been absolute rocks for me throughout this and I am so proud. My oldest in particular is going to take a long time to come around. My youngest had a sit down with her, which got nowhere about 2 weeks ago, and he didn't hold back. His finally line, you always taught us to take the moral high ground, and now I see you as the biggest hypocrite ever, ouch, apparently, that drew hysterical crying. Good. There is no path forward from my perspective. There have been few, I'm so sorry, but actions speak louder than words. The level of deceit and lies of omission and commission to be able to pull this off for so long is frankly unbelievable. She's living with him, so that seals it in my book. A week or so ago I had expressed that she could come back to our house and just live here in another room temporarily if things went badly. I've since wisely reversed course on that. This goes to even though she asked for the divorce, she hasn't filed, saying she'd like me to stay there for a year, so our kids have a fallback place if needed. That's crap, she's protecting her fallback position. She also hasn't changed her address or moved out all of her stuff. I will be filing myself instead. We have been super amicable on property division, agreeing on everything except my 401 Kelvin, which is about 8 times the size of hers. I'm working on that, an inner fog and some level of remorse I think I can make out better than straight 50 over 50. My goal now is to get myself right, improve my health and demeanor. I told her going forward we will do everything by email. Thanks for listening. I'm still piecing together some things, but I think I know who it is based on some statements my MIL made. Stay tuned for that. Thanks for the thoughts so far everyone, much appreciated. To answer a couple questions, read or comment, I'd file a SOP. Get this now poisonous person out of your life and do whatever you can to get her out of your house. Let her go live with Mr. Wonderful, original poster. She is out of the home and living with AP conveniently as I noted. She hasn't changed her address, which would mean actual work like new license, changing car registration and insurance etc. Read or comment, do you know anything about the other guy? My guess is that he is also married and they had a plan to end their marriages at the same time to be together. It's entirely possible that he won't hold up his end of the bargain, at which point you will need to figure out how you will react if she comes crying home with her tail between her legs. Original poster, I have my suspicions based on something my MIL said about AP when wayward wife told her and her father she was leaving me. I should know more tomorrow. I do know he is already divorced. Read or comment, getting officially separated limits the damage that will backsplash onto you and your kids. He's not a winner by any means since he was happy being in a PT relationship with a married woman for over a year. He's definitely not worth losing her kids over and that's where she's headed. Original poster, no kidding Grubs, I told her about 2 weeks ago, this guy is risking nothing in this relationship since he's already divorced. She's willing to blow up a marriage that is about 7 to 8 there. She's losing her honor, integrity, reputation, financial stability, siblings, parents and children on a big maybe. The woman has always been a bit impulsive and this is a great example. Her mother told me the other day she never thought about consequences of actions as a kid. Read or comment, I'm really sorry for you. As others have given you some great advice, I don't need to repeat them. One thing though, you need to be prepared in the event she decides she made a mistake. You are probably thinking damn it doesn't know what she's talking about. But you see she's hedging her bets. She's counting on you to be her backup plan just in case this affair doesn't work out. Please don't allow this. I'm suggesting that you tell her she has X days to get all her stuff. Then change the locks, change passwords to everything, bank accounts and credit card accounts and cable and utility accounts etc. and lock down your social media, unfriend her. Start to out some distance between you. If she wants out, she's out, 100% out. Will she be mad or hurt or whatever? Yes. But she made the decision to lie and cheat and end the marriage. So, she must live with that choice. I'm not saying be her. I'm just saying don't be left in limbo while she plans you as her backup plan. You deserve better than that. Again, I'm sorry you are facing this. I don't understand why she was not honest, but trust me, she was never unhappy until she met the other guy. Original poster, thank you. I'm planning just that about getting the remainder of her things. No 1 foot here, 1 there. That also goes with what I said up thread about changing your address. I control all the finances and have all the accounts protected. Her pay goes into her own separate checking account, which is fine by me. No social media to worry about, neither of us use it. I have implemented an email-only policy going forward. I told her last time we spoke I need to put distance between us so I can move forward and heal. I told her the woman I married is gone and has been replaced by someone I don't even recognize, nor does any of her family, especially our sons. The thing is, she is so stubborn I suspect she'd stick it out over there and just be miserable rather than admit defeat, unless he gives her the boot. Apparently, she managed to be unhappy with me for years, but of course never bothered to verbalize that. Reader comment, it also gives her more time to fully test drive AP. I'd be surprised if the gleam isn't already dulling there. It's one thing to be sparsely dating in the shadows, whole another story to be living with someone. Original poster, amen to that. She works from home, and she kind of hinted he does too. 24/7 is going to expose all the warts very quickly. I know how she can be after a bad day with her boss, or on house cleaning day, or after a tiff with her mother, or planning meals for the week, etc. I ran a lot of interference over the years for her in minor family squabbles. This guy doesn't even know her family, but hey, they're no all estranged from her at the moment anyway. Speaking of which, there were some family issues with her brother, sale around Christmas last year. To sweep her away from it, I took her to Florida for 4 days. We had a great time, played some golf, ate some nice meals. And although she was careful about the use of the toll pass to go CAP in general, she missed a few when I scrolled back through the records. The day after we got back from FL, she ran over there that evening for a few hours. I think she told me she was meeting her girlfriend for a few drinks. Things like that are why there is no going back. Reader comment, when you can set aside the emotions for a bit, take the chance to just watch your wayward wife, unknow everything you possibly can about her, and see her with fresh eyes, not as your wife but as just another member of the crooked timber of humanity stumbling through life. In time perhaps you can feel pity for her. I already do. Seen this play out too many times here. Original poster, I already am to a degree. When I mentioned earlier about having to drop something off to her at work, I got such little reaction when I told her I don't sleep, blood pressure up, eating problems, etc. Now, of course in retrospect I shouldn't have even bothered to mention those things, they don't care. If they cared, they wouldn't have stabbed you in the heart for so long. What makes all that tougher is I was so good to this woman. Did my share of helping around the house, provided nicely, was always kind and caring. Had her back when she had little tiffs with her family, etc. I just can't process how you so coldly betray someone who treats you that well. Thanks everyone for all the nice thoughts, it means a lot. Reader comment, apparently, she managed to be unhappy with me for years, but of course never bothered to verbalize that. ROFLMAO, rolling on the floor laughing, she wasn't that unhappy until she met the OM. My husband traveled extensively for his career. I was a single mom for years. I just accepted it as part of his job. It never dawned on me to cheat or use my husband's career to justify cheating. So here's a true story you may resonate with. On another blog, a guy writes about his brother or brother-in-law who d his wife after 25 years of marriage. He had a long-term affair with his secretary or coworker at his company. He was some big executive type. Married the very attractive trophy wife. His young adult kids hated her. They tolerated the new wife because she wanted to be their stepmom. She would throw $sign at the kids, but she was not a parent to them. After the D, their mom passed away, but this new wife was not going to replace their mom. Ever. Now for the husband, how shall I put this, he regretted his choices. Not that he would admit to making a mistake, because his ego was that big. He needed to save face. But he married a train wreck. The new wife needed to keep her youthful appearance because after all, her marriage started as an affair. She knew what the husband was capable of, so he was hardly out of her sight. The new wife needed lots of plastic surgery to maintain her appearance and attraction. And clothes, very expensive high-end wardrobe. And now he realizes he has married an alcoholic. The new wife has a drinking problem. Or always had a drinking problem, but it wasn't until the marriage that it became a problem. He's miserable, but will never admit the mistake in marrying the other woman. Cue your wife. This one day may be her. She may be walking into a similar nightmare living with the affair partner. She just doesn't know it yet. It's called consequences. Original poster, he may be the one that ends up regretting it too. Wayward wife has always drunk a lot more than me. Over the last few months before D-Day, I noticed she was drinking more than usual. I'm sure it was a coping mechanism as all of this built to a head. I'm talking 2 to 3 gin and tonics every night. It's never affected her ability to function, and I'm the only one who's really seen it. Who knows how worse it gets from here as reality starts to set in. Read or comment, I Opus, speaking as one who had a heavy alcohol-dependent cheating husband. Who did abandon me to live with his AP. There are many scenarios which can play out in your future. Putting aside our current for the moment, we had a 40-year marriage before his affair. All gone on D-Day. We split up our assets in the months that followed, etc., etc. This was over 3 years ago, and those first long months brought on tons of confusion, instability and upheavals for myself, my adult children, for my mom, for his mom and for him. Over time, things stabilized, grew calmer, quieter, peaceful even. From my experience, what I can say is reach out when times are overwhelming. Tell us what you need specifically so that we can share our experiences with you. The different perspectives that folks have here may help you tremendously. The best to you and to your family. Original poster, thank you for that, not a boring wife, I appreciate it. I'm using every support system and sounding board I can find at this point. Read or comment, I was you, albeit younger. Entered into a committed relationship with a woman around age 21 to 22. She was brilliant, high-achieving, beautiful. She had a young son from a man with whom she did not share a serious relationship. I moved in with her. We both went to grad school. We struggled to juggle budget, studies, work, child-rearing, etc. Lots of physical affair. It was the sort of us against the world struggle that often forges the blue hard steel of a lifelong partnership and relationship. Or so I thought. After grad school, we relocated a couple thousand miles to a new city. Romantic and beautiful city. Hit the ground running. Housing, school, soccer for the kiddo. All of this stuff to me reinforced the us against the world partnership I thought we were forging. When we finally got a bit of extra money saved up, she splurged for a wine country hot air balloon ride with me on my birthday. Super romantic stuff. Then she met the AP. It was like you describe, gradually increasing emotional distance. I was running at 1 mile per hour trying to establish a foothold in my new career, she was 2 and the kid was in school by then, so I chalked it up to fatigue and stress. I was wrong. Physical affair started to diminish. Again, I incorrectly chalked it up to fatigue and stress. Then she started a hobby and began staying out more frequently, and later, with her hobby activity group. Or so I thought. One morning in December, about 9 years after we got together, she didn't come home. It was a weekday. There were no cell phones in those days. I was up early, fixing breakfast and packing school lunch for her son, getting myself shaved and showered and ready for work, mentally planning my morning of school drop-off, etc. Overall, of that, I was worried about her. The hobby group often went out drinking. Did she get arrested for Dewey? Have a drunk driving accident? How could I find these things out? I was already thinking of who to call when, around 7 a.m., she drove into the driveway. Came into the house, disheveled, wearing her work clothes from the day before. I'm seeing another man. I'm going to leave you and move in with him. My son will come with me. I was gutted, literally could not breathe. Actual physical pain in my heart. I drove the son to school, then went to work, closed my office door, and collapsed on the floor weeping uncontrollably, in a brand new city. Knew almost nobody. The one person whom I viewed as my pillar, my anchor, poof, gone. Christmas that year was literally hell. We were separating our household stuff and each planning a move, but getting a new place around Christmas is almost impossible. There was a lot of overlap. I actually came home from a workplace Christmas party, fairly intoxicated, bundled in a warm coat, to find her in the living room watching a movie and canoodling with her new man. They politely retired to the spare room, closed the door, followed by the sounds of giggling and then intimacy. I puked in the toilet next to their room. It was as awful as you can imagine. I'm telling you this to tell you it gets better. You have to put one foot in front of the other and start moving on. Baby steps at first. In my case, we shared custody of the son on an ad hoc, informal basis, meaning I had to interact with her for years. The first few times, I wept when I saw her and begged her to reconsider. Her eyes were cold as ice. As an aside, I'm pretty sure she is somewhat ASD. She's brilliant but detached in the way one often sees in a description of mild Asperger's. Here's a thing. The first time you have sex with somebody new, it will be like the coolest, sweetest drink of water you've ever had. Like the first drink after almost dying of thirst in the hot desert. And physical affair for guys our age is plentiful. A buddy of mine, age 60, recently got divorced. If your equipment still works more or less normally, and if you are solvent, it's a buyer's market out there for men, my friend. Take advantage of it as soon as you possibly can. When you're basking in the afterglow, silently thank your wife. Years later, I met the woman who is now my wife of many years. The son was my best man. It was a sweet wedding and life has been good since then. In many ways, I owe a debt of gratitude to my ex. I didn't realize how difficult she was to be in a relationship with until I was in an easy relationship. When we were young, I thought of her as intense. In hindsight, intense is just the flip side of badass HT crazy. Original poster, thanks. That is quite similar in many ways, and my sympathy that you're had to go through something so horrible. Wow, update. I now know who the OM is thanks to some of the info I got from my MIL. He and my wayward wife worked together for over 20 years. She left that employment 4 years ago. Sometimes in the same department, but not towards the end. They have not worked together for the last 4 years. There is a group of 6 men as 8 of them that all worked there previously that get together now and then, including wayward wife and OM. His oldest and my youngest are the same age. There were occasional trips to amusement parks when the kids were little and such, and his then wife and I were both there most of the time. I would say he has been divorced from her for maybe 8 minutes 10 years. He's been to my home, we've met them for concerts and other such things, though not since his divorce. I know he used wayward wife as a bit of a sounding board when going through his divorce while at work. I do believe it was no more than that at the time, I really do. And there's not much I believe in this situation right now. Here's my suspicion. In one of those group get-together, wayward wife expressed her unhappiness with our man and talked to him about it since he'd gone through a divorce. Next thing you know, she's going over there to have longer talk because he was so supportive. And the train kept rolling on to the next station. Quite frankly, she's normally someone way out of his league. She is class, dresses nice and is attractive for her age, he's not. Quite clearly, he saw an opening and did exactly what these cheaters want, validated their feelings, made them feel good, told them how beautiful they are, how could anyone neglect you, played on her emotions, etc. She fell right into it. I think. He's my total opposite, really, directly opposite political, world views, religions, values, etc. I don't know what to think now. I've heard the phrase they always affair down, and yeah, that fits. There is a litany of comparisons, but let's just say she really went downhill here. My sister looked him up on Facebook when I was on the phone with her, and all she could say was ex-wayward wife gross. Not sure knowing all this is actually better or worse in this equation. I keep telling myself she left you for that troll. This is obviously much more than a normal affair relationship, as they have a long history and may know each other better than most APs in these situations. Living together and dealing with people all day every day is a whole different story though, I guess. Read her comment. I agree her fantasy will eventually crash. Most do. The good news is you will get to the point where you won't care who she is with, whether it is with the AP or someone else. The goal moving forward is not to feel hate for her or obsess about who she is with. The long-term goal is to get to the point of indifference. You simply won't care. You will be living your best life. The best revenge is a life well lived. Always value yourself. Bad things happen to good people like yourself. It is how you respond to adversity that will pave your way to your future happiness. No contact means no new hurts. Original poster, thanks, I think so too, and it will be a big whatever to me hopefully by then. I'm working every day to unwind her mentally from my life since the physical is a done deal. It's very hard getting past 30 years of good memories, and I'm triggered easily. That being said, I've slept a bit better the last 2 nights, which has certainly helped my overall well-being. Read her comment, say it all the time. Willing and available are the only requirements. APs are seldom better. I'd describe them as just living, breathing physical affair dolls used to allow the wayward wife to live out their fantasy. I'd also bet on at least a significant aback during his divorce. He wasn't the only one sharing. Might even be that your children being younger was the only thing that kept her in the M. That'd be an interesting discussion to have with his ex. None of that changes your path. She chooses him, as unworthy as he is, over you. You deserve better than that, so that's all the more reason to move forward with D. Get yourself free to find someone more worthy of you. If somehow, someway, your wayward wife extracts her head from her ass and becomes that person that's worthy, then cross that bridge then. But don't expect that of her, and certainly don't wait to hope her house of cards collapses. Original poster, that's a valid point, and I wouldn't put an E at the time out of the realm of possibilities. I'd contact his ex, but have no idea where she might be. She's a bit of a wacko anyway. Read her comment, my story is very similar to yours. Long-term marriage, no red flags, etc., etc. This SHT will leave you questioning everything. It is such a stunning, gobsmacking, baffling blindside, you're gonna be in a mind F shock state for quite a while. Obsessively ruminating over every detail. Let all this flow through you. Let your mind process. Things will gradually improve. As others mentioned, move quickly towards divorce. Take advantage of this fleeting opportunity to execute an amicable divorce. Take advantage of the fog, while it lasts, to secure best terms possible while avoiding petty fights over who gets the espresso machine. Do not wait for her. Do not play the pick-me dance. If, big if, she breaks out of the fog and realizes she effed up, she needs to come running after you. She needs to request reconciliation. She needs to make a very compelling argument as to why you should take her back, followed up with a very well thought out plan for R that includes exhaustive self-evaluation, and I see. She needs to convince you that you are not her fallback plan B, that you are her one and only, and that she will devote the balance of her life proving that you, anything less than this, and you're pissing away the remainder of your life in a limbo state that lacks specialize, authenticity, sincerity, security and true love. Do not settle for anything less or in between true remorse or a well-executed divorce. I'm your age and I've moved on, except for my ramblings on here, I have really moved on. I'm with beautiful gal now who has completely taken my mind off this saga. Original poster, thanks. I am questioning everything, and you're describing exactly what I'm going through. I am not playing the pick-me dance, no sir. I don't see a path where she is able to make the effort required to fix, even if I was willing. Plus, this is such a long-term thing, I don't see that as reparable. Besides, as I mentioned elsewhere, she is stubborn and bad at acknowledging errors. She'd sooner continue in misery there than admit she fouled up. Read her comment, Opus, I just wanted to say how sorry I am for you. Your wayward wife is literally throwing away a lifetime of love and support for nothing. Something you mentioned resonated with me. I too vilified my wayward wife's AP and focused on it. But at the end of the day, the most gorgeous woman could come on to me harder than any woman has in history, and I would still politely decline. Your wayward wife made all these choices and made all the decisions to cheat. This is all on her. Don't focus on the AP, I did, for too long, and it didn't do anything but delay progress. Be strong, Get your deed done as soon as possible and take advantage of your wayward wife's fog to secure as good a settlement as you can. Original poster, thanks for the thoughts, I appreciate it. I'm trying every day to change my focus and it is slowly starting to work. Read her comment, Opus, I'm very sorry you are here, brother. It sucks. It just really sucks. But let me assure you it gets better and will eventually be a distant memory clouded by newer, happier ones. I don't talk about my story on here much when I reply to posts, but for you and your story, I think mine is very similar. The main difference between our stories is I caught my ex-wayward wife cheating, yours confessed. With mine, when I caught her, I basically moved her out that night without her knowing. I took IRC over 40 giant yard bags filled with everything she owned and dumped them on his porch while she was inside with him. When she saw it, she called and I told her not to come home. She played tough and was screaming that she didn't want to. Because of her being in the la la land of unicorns and rainbows, I got custody of our 2 girls and I got our car and almost all furniture. It wasn't until maybe 6 months later when she called crying, begging to come home because he was an asshole and he was supposedly mean to her. Nope, I didn't let that happen. It was then that her anger came out and she started trying to get everything she passed on. But it was too late. My point is, strike a SAF while she's on her honeymoon in La La Land and you can probably have a painless divorce that's very much in your favor. I also believe in your case that she will try to come home eventually, so be prepared for that. Just do what's good for you quickly. Original poster, thanks man. Your story is painful as well, my sympathies. I'm getting my ducks in a row as we speak. Read or comment, I had started writing a post for this thread about focus. There has been so much emphasis on how miserable your wife will eventually be and how you can find comfort in that. Personally, I don't see any future benefit for you in her happiness or unhappiness. Your future happiness should not be based on what your wife is doing once she is no longer your wife. It's been a very long time since I walked in on my fiancé and mom. Like a lifetime ago. I lost all contact with her about 3 minutes for years after D-Day and haven't seen her in person for about 3 decades, wouldn't recognize her if I saw her. I would occasionally run into her dad maybe once every 6 minutes 8 years until he passed away some years ago. Last time we met he mentioned her and the sorry state she was in. I felt pity and a sense of how great potential for a good life had been squandered. That evening, when I went to bed, I didn't feel better, vindicated or expect a prize for winning infidelity. I just felt sad that a fellow human being that I had once cared so much for had made choices in her life that led her down a road of misery. Hetty shared that she hooked up with OM, married him, had a house by the lake, 6 kids all with degrees and successful careers and winning Nobel, a dozen grandkids, a BMW and a summer house in Italy. I don't think I would have been unhappier at the end of that day. My life and the quality of my life is not dependent on the happiness or misery of those that are outside my circle. What's happening now is not your choice. It was never your intention that this marriage wouldn't last and you probably envisioned retiring with your wife, playing golf, fishing, moving to Florida or whatever. Now your whole future has been changed. There is still a future though, only it isn't as you envisioned it some months ago. Change does not have to equate to worse, however, it is what it is. You aren't divorcing your wife out of your preferred choice. It's not what you envisioned or even wanted, but it's inevitable given the circumstances. You are divorcing her because she moved out to another man, professed her love for him and how she hadn't been happy with you. You are divorcing because the options she's offering make divorce the only logical choice. Once divorced, you work at distancing yourself from her rather than focusing on how she's managing life. For all you know, she and OM can be totally happy, well off and all that. For all you know, OM might be invited to the family Thanksgiving dinner at her parents', the one you used to attend. Your happiness should not be dependent on what she does or does not do. It's like if you came home to your house on fire. You wouldn't hesitate on taking action rather than just hope the fire will go out by itself. You would call 911, get help, save what can be saved, maybe take the garden hose to the flames. Later, once the crisis per se is over, you would check if rebuilding were possible, minimize the financial damage and try to learn what caused the flames. You start by addressing the prime problem and then handle the consequences and sequential issues. At the moment, it's seemingly clear that there will be no rebuilding of the old house and you move on to a new place. You would find little comfort in discovering your wife's possessions were more damaged or that the neighbor's house burned down too. Focus on the divorce. Focus on making it as fair as your conscience requires. Keep in mind that what you want out of it is partially controlled by law. I have suggested you look into if infidelity affects divorce in your state. There are still a few where it can impact factors like spousal support. I have a friend who is a family attorney. He stated that about 60 to 80% of the cost of divorce is often focused on maybe 20% of the real value. Like people will argue about a possession worth $100 spending $1,000 in legal fees. He also stated that as a rule attorneys can tell you with uncanny certainty what the financial outcome will be once they have all the information required. You mention your 401k. If you are the typical family unit, then maybe the reason yours is higher is because she took years off work to raise the kids. That in turn created an environment where you could work more, climb the corporate ladder and all that. The law simplifies things by generally evaluating all financial acquisitions in marriage as joint irrespective of who broke sweat to create the income. Keep in mind the absolute worst advice to follow on here is legal advice. This could be totally different in your state, but this is a very general and widespread POV. If you don't agree with the law, then go sign a petition or write your local politician a letter. But don't expect the judge to use anything other than the law as it's presented and has been applied so far. I'm not suggesting you give her half of yours, but maybe your best option might be to agree to her getting more equity in the house in lieu of the 401k. You can calculate it to your advantage. For example, if she was demanding 100k of your 401k and there are still 10 years until you are eligible to withdraw without tax or penalty, it might equate to 60k after taxes and penalties. Since it's paid up front instead of 10 years down the road, it might even equate to 30k. It's basically comparable calculation lottery winners are faced with when deciding on a lump sum. Or if there is something she values, then let her take that at full value in lieu of any claims she might have to the 401k. Basically make it non-personal and be result-driven. Original poster, yeah, that was the plan. You're right, this is the only logical choice going forward and I've accepted that. Reader comment, I want to clarify my prior posts. It wasn't a Karmas of BTCH post, but I posted the story about the cheating Bill from a different perspective. The point was the cheater Bill was miserable in his second marriage, but would never admit he made a mistake. I was comparing him to Opus's wife in that she appeared to be trying to keep her options open. I hoped if she believed she had made a mistake she would not suffer in silence to save face with Opus. That she would admit her mistake, not trash her marriage if there was a chance to. It's hard to stop loving and caring about someone you spent decades married to. It takes time to let reality set in that your spouse has moved on. Original poster, that's the part one struggle with. I know who she is now and I know the woman I married is gone. It gets very hard at times to separate the two, especially when something triggers me, which is quite often. Thanks for watching the video. Please click the thumbnail to watch part 2 of